This is in response to an article in The Sun. Stephanie Alice, the Chief Pleasure Officer at Mystery Vibe, called for young girls to be given vibrators to banish the taboo around female masturbation. Mystery Vibe, unsurprisingly, is an adult sex toy company. So a lot of people would say she would say that, wouldn't she? But nevertheless, it sparked this debate, and you say that it's a legitimate idea.
I think it's a fantastic idea. I mean, we want to promote a healthy and happy sexual approach to men and women, young people across the board. I think what we have in today's society is an inability to discuss the female aspect of pleasure, talk about the men's side of things. When we talk about masturbation, teenage boys springs to mind, and never the girls. When we're allowing young women to have sex at 16, but we're saying that they shouldn't masturbate at 16, so
I don't know
for me it doesn't.
I don't know whether we're saying that they shouldn't, and I think this is actually just the next step of actually providing a means to do it.
It's the cherry on top of masturbation. I think it's, and everyone likes a cherry now and then. It's not a necessity, but it's, you know, it's a way of helping you to explore your own sexuality.
Okay, well, Judy, I mean, but you are by no means any sort of prude here at all. But what your problem here is it's the age, it's the teenage, the younger sort of end of the teenage.
I think, you know, young people, they're going through their hormones, they're changing, their identity within their self hasn't even been understood. So I think there's nothing wrong with young people exploring their bodies, you know, using their own hands and so on, and understanding your body. It's important as a woman. But I think, where does the line stop? You know, we're now going to hand them a vibrator. You know, it takes away the form of growing and getting into relationships and learning about intimacy. Like, you know, you've obviously used a vibrator, you know, so you know the pleasure that it can bring. Oh, of course, you know, but so you know the pleasure it can bring. And allowing a 12-year-old to meet that, you know, it can form into an addiction. It can be me personally, I don't think it's right. I think it's too young. I think the young people are going through issues as it is already, and now adding this, we've got, you know, young boys upstairs locked in their room playing computer game. You're going to have your daughter upstairs locked in a room with her vibrator. I can't imagine. Could you imagine, Holly? You're trying to reach into your top drawer and take out your rumput rabbit. You know what I mean?
So when is a good time to open the conversation then? Because we all know that communication is key with all these sorts of things. Should we be talking about sex toys with young teenagers?
I think it's really important because sex toys are part and parcel of a happy and healthy relationship. You don't have to have them, but lots of couples, I would say more so than not, enjoy sex with sex toys. And to eliminate that from a teenager's life and then just expect them to be OK with it at a later date is kind of asking them to run before they can walk. So when we talk about sex toys, quite often people, like, the images of big phallic penises will spring to mind, and that's not what sex toys are about anymore. There's a plethora of designs, all with the sole aim of delivering pleasure.
So, hang on a second. How does this conversation start, then, in that case? Do you wait until your daughter, your teenage daughter, approaches you and says, can I talk about this? And there are very few families that are that open, let's face it. I mean, a lot of families have difficulties talking about the basics, let alone looking through a catalogue and saying which one do you think will suit you.
I'm not suggesting you get the TK Maxx catalogue of sex toys or whatever the alternative is. It's simply about, when that conversation does crop up, letting your teenage or young person know that there are other options just than manual masturbation, if you like. Some people find it extremely difficult to climax through manual masturbation and need that helping hand. And if you're one of those people, then
in later life, maybe.
Exactly.
But
because, you know, if they haven't explored their body already, you know, a natural form of thinking, OK, something feels different, you know, exploring their bodies with their hands, to then aid them with something that they could become reliant on. I think it's best, if we're saying that we're prude and we're not having these conversations, then maybe we should be having these conversations before looking for an outlet to give them. You know, we should be having that.
If you start having this conversation with your 13-year-old daughter, say, and then she thinks, oh, right, OK, well, Mum's been telling me that there's other things out there, I'm going to have a good look for this, and they start Googling, We know what happens when you look at websites. Other things pick up, then suddenly, before you know it, you've gone down a complete different avenue. And you're viewing stuff that actually might be...
you wouldn't want your child to see. Which is why the conversation is so important. And if your child can talk to you, that kind of takes away the need for them to go on websites.
But then you'll talk about it, and then you need to take them shopping for it in order to protect them.
I'm not necessarily suggesting you have to have a vibrator. I think being able to have the conversation is a massive step in itself. It shows trust between, parent and child, and that's.
But we are talking about having a vibrator. That's what we're sitting here discussing at the moment.
Well, I think if it's something that you have discussed, you've talked about, and you think you may benefit from it, whether that's male or female or whoever, then and you can talk to your parents about it, then I think that's can only be a positive thing.
But how can a child benefit from this? Sorry.
Won't it help? It may be if you were getting pleasure from a sex toy as a teenager, would perhaps satisfy you enough that you thought maybe, well, I don't need to go out and find myself a boy, or I don't need.
Well, studies show that is the case. That a lot of people fear that by introducing sex toys to their 14, 15, 16, however old their child is, that's the gateway to promiscuity. When studies show that it's actually the opposite. They're more comfortable with themselves, they're more happy and more sexually satisfied, and when they do have a relationship, they know the onus, they know their top line for what they're seeking.